It's official. Father Rich is the priest, the new priest at St. Albans. He's been here just a few months, St. Albans Episcopal, and officially the title is the Reverend Dr. Richard Bardish. And I'm glad you're here. If you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm grateful to be here for this opportunity. This prayer is titled For Sound Government, and it comes from our Book of Common Prayer. Let us pray. O Lord, our Governor, bless the leaders of this council and all those citizens gathered here, that we may be at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other cities. Teach our people to rely on your strength and to accept their responsibilities to their fellow citizens, that they may elect trustworthy leaders and make wise decisions for the well-being of our society, that we may serve you faithfully in our generation and honor your holy name. For yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father Rich. Appreciate your coming. And I was going to say you could go right out, but it looks like you knew the word. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the City Council for the City of Monroe, September 13th, 2022. It is 6 o'clock on the nose. Let the record reflect that all members of council are present, save Mr. Dickinson. I think he is at the Ryman Auditorium tonight. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda, please.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm and a second by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda. This is for the council minutes and executive session minutes of August 9th, public safety of the 2nd, planning commission of the 19th, historic preservation July 26th, downtown development July 4th, 14th, August 11th, DDA, CVB on July 14th, and CVB on August 11th. I need a motion for approval of the consent agenda, please.
Move to approve.
A motion by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, Chaz, what you? Second by Mr. Boyce. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to our public comment tonight. We have a few that are going to be very similar, I think. I have Patrick and Jordan Stewart here. They live on Church Street. They want to talk about the short-term rental ordinance. Hey, Coach.
He's going to pass something out really quick.
Thank you. And you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Do you want me to start now or when he's...
You can do whatever's
Okay.
comfortable to you. As soon as you start, we'll start counting.
Hi, I'm Jordan Stewart, and this is my husband, Patrick Stewart. We have a short-term rental home here in downtown Monroe. We keep our home very well maintained. It's beautiful. It is very well kept. It's walking distance to all the great restaurants here in downtown Monroe and the shops, some of the local wedding venues as well. You, the City Council, have created and designed Monroe to be a place where so many people want to come and visit. They want to eat at our awesome restaurants and shop at these amazing places. They want to spend money in downtown Monroe. We do not only host out-of-town guests, but we also host local businesses, local families who have out-of-town family members coming into town. And even the family of the man who built our home back in 1887. So this summer we got to meet the family that she's 93 now. She's the granddaughter of the man who built our home. Although short-term rentals have not been so far an issue inside of the city of Monroe, as I believe there are 5 to 6 actual short-term rental homes in the city, Patrick and I are all for regulating these homes and homes like ours. Regulations that make sense, like the limit of the number of people, cars, quiet hours, things like that. We actually already make our guests abide by those things as it is, as we are very firm and strict on that. However, there are a few things, if you guys have already read through the proposed ordinance, there are a few things that stand out to us. And as you can see on the first page here, one of is the gravel parking area that is located behind our home, which Patrick's going to talk about.
In section 22-383 and letter E, just the only clarity we need on that is just discussing what is going to be a paved driveway to you, because right now we have a well-maintained gravel driveway. The beginning of it is paved, but then the rest of it's gravel. So either considering that being an okay parking area for you as a city, and, we understand, obviously, not parking on the road or parking in the front yard, or, we get all that. But just making sure that the gravel driveway is okay to be in there.
Because one of the things in the ordinance states on number 9, parking, short-term rentals shall comply with all applicable ordinances regarding parking. Owner shall provide sufficient parking for guests, such as all parking is accomplished by paved parking spaces. So we're asking for possibly, having an area that is a designated parking area that looks clean, looks nice, it's not the front yard. We are all for everything that has to do with safety, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, everything like that. But, a paved parking versus a gravel parking, what is that? How is that not safe or safe? And what difference does that make as well if it is a designated clean parking area? And then secondly, really just the second thing, was the video surveillance cameras that was in the section of that. Kind of some clarity on that. We are all for having cameras over the parking area, the driveway. But, the backyard, people enjoying that, people being outside, we don't want, it's kind of a legal thing for us too, we don't want people to feel violated in any way that we're staring at them or trying to watch them or video them, when they're just with their family. We understand having that over the cars. And really, that's it. We saw on the timeline of January 1, if we did have to replace windows, which would be unfortunate considering they're the 1800 windows, they're old, but, still operable. I think a timeline for this of January 1 with everything back ordered right now is kind of pushing it as well by the time that this would be approved. Also in the packet, just lastly, we do have some reviews of people who have stayed at our house. These are actual reviews of people just saying how much they love the city and how we have been very we communicate with them the entire time. We just take pride in our home. We're there 3 to 4 times a week, and we try to just be very present.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your coming in. Next, Ms. Brassey. Tell you, Faye was my art teacher. She actually asked me to go be the PE assistant because I was not going to get that art stuff.
I am a member of the Historic Commission, and I am just pleading with you that you remember a lot of these homes are in the historical area, and we don't want to compromise their look. I know we had a problem with some windows which you didn't think were appropriate, but that we didn't think were appropriate. But every change you make in a house is a change against history. And you chose to have, or somebody chose to have, a historical commission that respects and takes care of the integrity of these houses and the grounds. So all I'm asking is to remember that these old windows are going to be, I'm not sure that they could all meet your standards with an egress. There's a front door and a back door. And could I suggest extra fire extinguishers as a possibility, if that's not doable? My house, I couldn't raise a single window if I tried. They just are glued shut, and I'm not about to do it. And some of these other homes, they're warped. They're in the same way, and they'd have to put in new windows. And then to do that would ruin the integrity of the house. And as far as the driveway is concerned, let's face it, some of these houses, if you were to put a paved driveway in front of them, would ruin the integrity. So all I ask is some leniency. Check it one by one, see if maybe they could come before our commission and we could work with you on this. My family from California came and they stayed at the Stewart's house. And we were very pleased. They were blown away with how clean, how nice to have something like that in Monroe. And I'm so excited that it's in the historic district because people want to walk around and we want to show off our town. So I just hope that you will not be so straight-lined on these ordinances and we'll have a chance to do it one by one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brassey. Appreciate your coming in. Jennifer Mata.
I'm sure most of you guys do too. My name is Jennifer Mata. My husband and I live in town and have an Airbnb on Edwards Street. We welcomed our first guests in March of this year, and since that time have had 34 reservations, mostly on the weekends and predominantly for weddings at one of the many venues in close proximity to Monroe. Our guests have predominantly been older couples or families with children. Most of them have come from other areas, one from China, and all have been enchanted by our small town. Since March, our Airbnb has collected $2,613 in taxes for the city of Monroe. This number far exceeds the amount of property taxes we pay the city. Our guests have eaten at restaurants downtown, shopped in our quaint boutiques, and enjoyed ice cream at Scoops. They have been good for our town. We appreciate the city's efforts to foster safety and security in the short-term rental market and agree with most of the items in the short-term rental ordinance. We already limit our guests and ask for their cooperation in keeping noise to a minimum and prohibit large parties. However, we do have a few questions about the ordinance. And again, like Jordan said, the paved parking spaces. He has a driveway at the house, but there is a gravel parking pad. I work for Reliant Homes, and we have built several communities in Athens where non-porous surfaces are limited. Clark County charges its property owners for the amount of non-porous areas via a stormwater bill each year. We are curious why the city would ask a property owner to pave an existing gravel parking area if it's fine. Also, in the ordinance, it says that short-term rentals must consist of a minimum of 500 square feet and contain at least one bedroom, one bathroom, and kitchen facilities. I would like to see clarification of kitchen facilities. And how does this affect those short-term rentals already in existence that are a bedroom and bath only, requiring the guests eat out in our town instead of cooking at home? I have stayed in several Airbnbs that only offer a room and a bath in someone's private home. How is this any different from a hotel? Why require kitchen facilities? Again, that's clarification on that. Finally, I would like to know if the other short-term rental facilities that are not rented through a platform such as Airbnb will be held to the same standards. The Sparrow Hill Inn has a pea gravel driveway. The rooms in the Wayfarer do not have kitchen facilities. Why are these requirements being placed upon property owners who rent through Airbnb? Thank you for your time. My husband and I appreciate your efforts to regulate the short-term rental market and for your service to the town. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, Jennifer. I'm sorry, I might not get this name correct. I believe it's Sarita, and I can't read the last name. Rahiel? Thank you for coming. I'm sorry. And you're from Turner Street?
Yes,
You have some new construction going on. You have some new construction going on around you.
yes, we do. My home is right next door, actually.
Okay.
My name is Sarita Rahimel. Good evening, everybody. We have been living in Monroe for 10 years now. I'm originally from Athens, Georgia. We moved here. We fell in love with the town. I just want to say thank y'all for what y'all are doing to the downtown area. It looks great. We love the parks. We love the whole downtown area, the decorations that y'all do for Christmas. We think that's great. We bought a house on Turner Street a few years ago. It was a older home that was vacant. It had been vacant for a while. It was kind of an eyesore. And so we completely renovated it inside and out, and we brought it up to code. and we decided to do an Airbnb, and we haven't had our first guest yet. We plan on having our first guest this month, and we're completely fine with the safety ordinances that y'all want to put in place. You know, the cameras, I think most people, you know, have those anyway, and all the other safety precautions we're fine with. Our concern is the driveway, though. Our driveway is gravel. It's not paved. We got a quote to pave the driveway, and it was $12,000, which is very expensive. And we, you know, we just have put so much money into renovating the home so far that $12,000 would be a lot of money for us to put into it in addition to what everything else we put into it so far. So I just ask that y'all consider, you know, not implementing that. We're fine with everything else, but just the paved driveway would just be a huge expense for us right now. And that's it, y'all. Thank y'all for your time.
Well, and I'm sorry to have started chatting over here because you were hitting on something that we're really going to have to discuss in just a few minutes. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't the only one with the driveway question. So
Okay,
thank you so much for coming in, and we're glad you're here.
thank you.
That Turner Street is just turning around.
It is, yeah, we're so proud of, you know, the job we done to the home. I don't know if you know what it looks like before. It was lavender and it was yellow and
Yes,
it's
ma'am, I do.
vacant and grown up. But it looks completely different now. We got a lot of compliments on it, and we're just really excited to start our Airbnb. So.
That's awesome. Thank you. Glad you're here. Moving to Jamie Jenkins at 2366 Hillside, is this Terrace or Trace? Terrace.
Really loud voice. I'm almost afraid to get too close to that speaker. Just blow everyone away. I'm just gonna wing it. I'm really coming here to support the Airbnb. I do the same kind of thing that Jordan, Jennifer were talking about. My house is outside of the city limits. And most of my guests are medical professionals that are looking for more medium term. I guess my thing is it's not maybe just specific things like the driveway and all that. It's more like the stipulations, so many people, so many cars, you gotta have this in this space, that sort of thing. I take really good care of my properties, even probably more so than my neighbors, because I'm trying to make it look appealing for a lot of the medical professionals, like I was saying, that we actually, so a lot of it is travel nurses. So I think too, the fact that I'm able to give them, a nice place to stay, they can go to the downtown area, they bring in money. Even some of the nurses for Conyers and stuff like that, they don't want to stay in Conyers. They're like, oh yeah, we really like Monroe, we want to go there. And, I'm maybe 10 minutes from downtown, so they're hanging out in Monroe, but then they're driving to Conyers to the hospital or whatnot. So I don't know. I guess I just wanted to say I do a really good job of taking care of the people, and they always want to come back, and they always refer me. And I think they bring in a fair amount of money as far as going to restaurants and plus, not to mention the fact that I'm helping with the hospital staff around here, even home health. I've had home health nurses. They're staying 2 or 3 months. And they're super quiet, easygoing. All my people are pretty much professionals.
Well, and I'm glad you came, Jamie. And Jamie is a mainstay in town. See her every single night at the gym, and she works her little finger to the bone. I think
Dedicated individual.
I think Ms. Malcolm has a question for you.
Okay.
Do you provide a kitchen setup for your clientele?
I do right now. That's not to say that, in the future, I might want to do a basement where maybe it's just a kitchenette or something like that, where it's kind of minimum. because, and a lot of times kitchens do help bring people in because they can cook and they're not forced to go out all the time. But it's, it's kind of in the middle. I actually get some of both. It seems like I get either these, and a lot of them are students too. I even have a Georgia student wanting to stay his last 3 months. And I mean, my guess is, he's going to be going out to eat a lot. I mean, and I get a lot of even young kids, and their parents are like, hey, can you take care of my kid? And they're really good kids, and they're looking for a nice place to stay, and it's affordable. So, but like I said, they go out to eat. So they're either going out to eat every night, or I got the other nurses that are like,
I'm tired of going.
yeah, I want to do my prep cooking or whatever it is they do.
Right.
I'm like, go ahead, that's what it's for, so. But I really enjoy it. I just think putting more and more stipulations and all that is just going to make it harder for people like me to do what I do.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you coming in. Mark Willett. Thanks for coming, man. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes.
I'm going to come with a little bit different spin. So I'm actually an investor that has both short-term and long-term rentals. So I want to just tell y'all, they're two totally different businesses. I know Monroe in the past has had a ton of rental properties and still have rental properties long-term. The short-term thing is a new thing, and I know all the cities, they're voting on ordinance, and I'm totally for an ordinance. I think every city needs an ordinance. We have short-term rental in Greene. We work with Greene County through their short-term rental policy, and Putnam County. So we help them with both of theirs, and I think it is a need. And I'll tell you this, being a landlord of both, the Airbnb people, they keep their properties to a T. I mean, they keep it immaculate. They keep the grass cut, because this is the truth. All they have to have is one bad review on VRBO or Airbnb, and they're sunk. I mean, they don't get any more bookings, and everybody knows that, and all the owners know that. And I mean, they're out there they're keeping fresh paint, they're cutting the grass every week. I mean, it is a totally different animal than long-term. So, I just want to put y'all at ease, that the Airbnb is not like a long-term situation. One thing I would add, I read through it briefly, I would add fire extinguishers. I don't know if that was on there. I'd say you definitely need one on the outside near the grills, and I would say definitely probably two more in the house, for safety, because y'all are voting on this for public safety. One questions that I did have on there was the gravel driveways. I know there's a lot of historical houses, like Jordan mentioned, hers was built in 1800 and it's had a gravel driveway since then. And then another thing Jennifer brought up, gravel does do better for penetration of water drainage. So when you start paving surfaces, you get into a lot more water runoff and onto the neighbor and such as that. Secondly, the video cameras. I know our guest would probably be offended with video cameras placed on the outside of the property, and I know there's several in the city that have swimming pools. So, I mean, you can imagine you got video cameras and, your wife's laying out there at the pool, you'd feel offended. So I'd probably reconsider that. I don't know how that would be a public safety for you guys as far as the voting. Another thing is I read through there the complaints on the properties. I would address on, because you're going to possibly have some neighbors complain. So I know the thing, you get a fine after 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would more say, who is that complaints? Is that coming from the actual police department where they were called out, for maybe a rowdy bunch? I would more, work on that as far as, because you're going to have some neighbors maybe complain or something, that maybe is not over a bad situation. It's just maybe they don't like what you're doing, so they're gonna just make it hard on you. So they're just gonna constantly be nagging at you. So I would identify that. And then my last thing is the taxes and regulation. The state of Georgia passed something about a year or two ago to where Airbnb and VRBO are required to collect the city tax. So I don't know who's over that. I would contact them and make sure that they're collecting that tax for you guys. So that is a Georgia thing that they passed. And then, as far as that, I would have somebody in place that regulates this, because you're gonna have people that abide, like everybody in this room, they wanna abide by the law. They wanna abide by the ordinance. But you're gonna have new people come in that's gonna start renting their facility, and they're not gonna be paying the tax, they're not gonna be registering, and you've gotta have somebody in your office that can identify new people coming in and reach out to them to where they're on the same playing field as everybody else. So that's just some thing. Do you guys got any questions?
I don't think so. I'm sure we're going to discuss this a little bit further in just a few minutes.
Okay.
I appreciate your coming in.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Willett. Move to new business items, to the city administrator update. I think Logan has a couple of folks to recognize.
I do. We don't often get to recognize a lot of our employees, but tonight I've got Joey Witcher and Stephen Irvin from our water treatment facility. Come on up to the lectern up here, guys. I want you to have the face with the name. So these are a couple of unsung heroes to me. So a few weeks ago, you remember in the national news, over in Jackson, Mississippi, their water treatment plant facility failed. These are two of the guys that pretty much single-handedly helped put that back together, probably with a small group of folks, but these guys were very instrumental to get that water pumping through their treatment facility again. It was a big operation. They went over there it was a solid week, wasn't it, guys? Solid week. They lived in a FEMA trailer and had to pull a lot of extra duties at the plant and get it running again before they came back home to Monroe. But they were asked to serve over in Jackson because our plant is very much like their membrane plant. Not a lot of people can work on them. So I just want to give these guys a big round of applause.
Rodney, if you don't mind, would you stand up with these gentlemen and put your picture in the paper?
I think they got water to 180,000 citizens in Mississippi, is that correct?
Jackson's huge. That is fantastic. If you would step in front of the lectern for me, please. I got to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Good times, man.
Tell us one thing that you came home with that made you feel more thankful to be coming home.
New attitude toward keeping the plant in the condition it should be in at all times. So it's beneficial to the city as well.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Briefly, we are still continuing with the local option sales tax negotiations with Walton County. We'll probably have a series of meetings. Technically, we're in a mediation mode right now, but we're still trying to iron out the details kind of unofficially through good faith right now. So we'll see where that gets over the next couple months. Traffic calming is kind of now officially kicked off. They've been out marking a few areas on the streets. I don't have that exact schedule in hand yet, but they said they'd get it to me later this week as to what streets they're going to be hitting first, in what order. But that has now officially started. With that, we've got a long meeting ahead of us, so I'll spare you.
Well, thank you, Logan. I know you have a lot of folks excited about that traffic calming. Moving to the Assistant City Administrator update, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, sir. Our 2020 CDBG grant job was closed out this past Thursday, so everything is done. They hit those final couple of little items that we identified on the walkthrough. So they are out of there. We're done, closed out with DCA on to 2022's project as that gets in process. The Blaine Station Development RFQ, we received 0 responses. It was due back August 26th, so we made the determination to put it back out this time for a longer period of time. It'll be due in November 18th, and we're actually going to make a run in the Atlanta Business Chronicle, which generally gets you in front of a lot of developers. We did have some interest from 3 companies that are wanting to come and visit on site at some point between now and the due date. So hopefully by December, perhaps, we'll have some things in the works and maybe a couple of companies to review for that process, and then probably come back first of the year with maybe some type of contract and approval. Airport Capital Improvement Plan, I've got a meeting actually in Savannah in October to situate that for the next 5 years, and that'll tie into the infrastructure bill funding that was passed earlier this year for the next 5 years to figure out how we're going to fund the different projects with the extra money that's coming down from the state, federal government. Parks, if you have been by Matthews in about the last 2 to 3 days, you will see quite a bit of activity. Working on the grading of the new parking lot up front, tearing out what's existing. We've got curbs in, pavilion should be there hopefully any day. I just hope it's not the same day they want to put asphalt down this coming week. And then the Parks logo design is complete. I had sent that out to you guys, so hopefully we'll get a couple of shirts and get that made, start handing that out to some of our kids in our parks as a reward for visiting and playing in our parks. Municipal court lot should have paving, I believe, seal coat this weekend. We're looking at on Saturday and Sunday it'll be closed, and then they'll finish it next week, stripe it and whatnot, so that'll add quite a few parking spaces for downtown. Yeah, and then Town Green, like I say, there's a lot of dirt piled up, a lot of movement going on, and then Leanne had asked me to state too that September 30th is the rescheduled concert downtown, and then Fall Fest will be October 8th, that following Saturday. And I'll be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Is there any questions for Chris?
I have one. The 17th is Dinosaur Day in downtown Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to draw a crowd that's going to need the parking there?
I don't know.
I know there's never a good
I
time.
think we did it last year, and I think it was a pretty good success, and the business owners downtown asked that they do it again.
But I'm thinking for that parking lot that you're going to have blocked off. Didn't you say it's this Saturday?
I didn't know what she said. It was the 17th.
It is
Yeah,
the
so we're
17th,
closing
but
the
the
parking lot
parking.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we not?
Well, so here's part of the problem. We have events every weekend, it seems like. So, I mean, we can talk to the contractor. I can get Jeremiah to reach out to them and see kind of what they can work around.
I just thought
Running against all of our events, there's never a good
I know.
Definitely, I want it done before the concert, and I want it done before Fall Fest. I think
So
that
they'd
would
only be the following weekend.
Right. We pushed it off one Friday because of the concert, and then, I don't know, maybe we'll have a rainy, low turnout on Dinosaur Day.
Well, then you can't pave if
I know.
it's raining, so don't
Yeah,
vote
that's a
for
good
that.
point, too. Yeah, we don't want that, so. yeah,
What if we-
Anyway, I
we'll
just
check
thought
into
I'd
it.
bring that up.
What if we put up some signs that say La Brea Tar Pit?
Oh, good call.
Nice
attraction.
thinking.
There you go.
Chris, you mentioned the Blaine Street station not getting bids. What's the status on the downtown old police department building?
That is low.
Yeah, we're almost under contract. We're just finishing up a couple of little minuscule negotiation points in the contract, but it'll be under contract this week or next.
Good.
I anticipate.
Thanks, Logan. Any other questions for Chris? Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Moving to department requests, finance approval, Keckenwood additional services for the TAP grant. Mr. Probst?
Yes, so the long-awaited Transportation's Alternative Program grant, which basically means streetscape to finish out this portion of North Broad, East Highland, and down North Lumpkin. So this is a multi-phased deal in the grant. We've already done engineering, and now this is going to be a similar deal for right-of-way acquisition. And this agreement is for Keckenwood to be, to get that right-of-way contract, and that amount here, sorry. $285,000 is their portion, so it's an 80-20 deal, so we get reimbursed by the state for that $688,000.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Logan?
So you anticipate the right-of-way acquisition after tonight to begin immediately?
It's going to start immediately.
How many parcels?
23 or so, maybe 24.
23, we've already got title run on all of them, and you know 97%. As do I. But we've already got title run on all of them.
Yeah, this one shouldn't be terribly bad. We may have a couple of harder ones. There will be a property owners meeting here.
It's next Monday, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, next Monday night,
be
there's a
here.
property owners meeting.
in the afternoon. Property owners will get a mailed card and letter from me on all that.
Any other questions for Logan? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Gregory to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to public safety, this is the replacement of laptops and docking station at the PD. Chief Watts?
Thank you, Mayor. Just seeking the council's approval to move forward with the replacement of 15 Panasonic Toughbooks. These are computers that go inside our patrol vehicles. They're anywhere from 6 to 10 years old. We're just wanting to go ahead and start transitioning out, and that's for a total amount of $49,752.30.
Thank you, RV. Are there any questions for the chief?
Is this not capital?
So, our auditors last time around said we should probably have that in the maintenance budget. We disagree, so we can bounce that back to them again.
Wherever you want.
It normally
I'm
would
not-
be.
I'm
in my
not
opinion.
suggesting, I'm asking you.
In my opinion, it would be a capital item, but, it's in the maintenance and operation budget, so now it's before you.
Okay.
Well, it's obviously needed.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a 10-year-old.
Oh, gosh, no kidding.
I move approval for it. I just wanted to verify the capital side.
So we have a motion to approve on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory, and the motion was by Mr. Bradley. Any discussion? I do have a question. Chief Watts, this law and order technology, do they do something special specifically for these laptops, or could you get them at?
Well, they're rugged, obviously. They take a pretty good beating, but they're utilized for several things inside the vehicle. This is also, they can get dispatch from 911, so these officers can look on their Panasonics and see, what units are being dispatched to, not only in our jurisdiction, but also out in the county as well. And they can also write search warrants on them. They can do the reports, things of that nature.
Gotcha.
But riding around that vehicle, day in and day out, they take a pretty good beating.
Yeah, that's a tight fit.
Right, it is.
That's an antenna to go.
And that also includes the docking stations that go with those as well, so.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the approval of the SRO program. Chief Watts, we have a few of these, 1, 2, 3.
Yes, sir.
3. So Chief Watts, you want to take the first one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In fact, what I was going to do is this is just our annual approval of our SRO contract with Monterey High School, Foothills, and George Walton Academy. Just need to get the council approval to move forward with these contracts.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the first one? This is Monroe area.
Do we need to do these one at a time, or can we do all three?
You can do all three unless you need to pull one out.
I just move we approve all three SRO contracts and protect our children.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion by Mr. Bradley to approve all three. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Mr. Little. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes for all three. That is Monroe area, Foothills, and George Walton Academy. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Council. Moving to Public Works, purchase of solid tires. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. We need to purchase 4 solid tires for the John Deere loader at the Monroe Transfer Station at $30,840.85 from Setco. And I just want to mention the lifespan of these tires have run between 18 and 24 months, but they wore down a little early because of the increased volume at the transfer station the last 12 months.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions for Danny? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Public Works, Rest Haven Cemetery paving rehab. Mr. Bailey?
Thank you. This is an item that we had stretched out over 3 years in the CIP. We had put $50,000 each year to try to get Rest Haven repaved, do the back portion of Eastview, and perform patches at West Marable because it was in decent shape except for the backside. So we've had a hard time finding a company that could actually come in and do the entire thing within a decent budget. And a lot of them just wouldn't touch it because of the tight corners, tight turns. It's just hard to access Rest Haven, but is in a desperate need of paving. So what I'm asking is that we essentially increase that CIP budget for this year to $65,000 so I can get the entirety of Rest Haven paved. And that $150,000 won't come into play over those 3 years because I believe we can take care of all three for under probably about $90,000 time we get into everything. But so asking that we approve the CIP to be increased from 50 to 65 this year to cover Rest Haven, and then we'll get to Eastview and West Marable later in the year, early next year.
Great, thank you, Chris. Are there any questions for Mr. Bailey? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve, and thank you, Chris.
I know.
So excited about this.
Really?
This is something we have needed for a long time at a total of $65,000. That's amazing.
So we have a motion by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that. Moving to library parking lot, front and back rehab. Come back to you.
Yes, sir, thank you. So this is another one that we've had to look at, that the front parking lot has got a lot of deterioration. We've got some curbing that just looks bad. A lot of it has moved. We've had a little bit of wash that's elevated some right at the steps on the side of the building, and then towards the back, that's towards Childers Park. So we put it out. We got 3 bids for the front portion, and then we're actually going to do the back parking lot as well, which will add an additional 30 to 35 spaces roughly of parking that will be accessible to downtown once we work a sidewalk and then a crosswalk from in front of the rec center up to the municipal lot, which then gets some safe passage to downtown, just through sidewalks, crosswalks, and whatnot. We'll do this in phases. We'll do the front portion, and then we'll come back and we'll do the back portion. There'll be some drainage that will have to be taken into account for on the back side. The total request, the low bid, is $91,920 to do both. And that's from J&R Consolidated Holdings. It's the same company that actually did the Kenneth Murray lot here on Highland and Wayne.
Did a great job.
Now, are they going to stripe this? You may have said, did you say how many spaces we'll get?
The
on
back should add about 30 to 35, give or take.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
You did, big time.
Great.
Are there any questions for Chris?
Yeah, are we responsible for the full upkeep of any kind of maintenance of the building and parking lot?
Yes.
Yes.
And the second question is, I guess the extra $35,000 here that's not included in the current budget, where are we getting that from?
We are pulling it from, our 2019 splost reserves that we have available, a little over $3 million. And then two, I want to mention one thing. The library is actually working with the state to get us partial funding back for some of this expense to pave. So it may end up only costing us a portion of this.
And I have to admit, I don't go to the library often, so I don't know a lot, but is there a real need for these additional 35 spaces? Is that?
For the
I think it's for downtown.
Parking,
That would be for downtown and Childers Park
because it'll be accessible off of Wayne Street
and the library.
and the library area. We just need to earmark it, and have people, so people will know that it's additional parking for downtown.
And we do have a very active library population.
I know it's an active library. Look at the statistics, and I see that.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure as far as the parking is concerned, because I have been there some. There's always been ample parking.
Right.
Anytime I've been, I didn't think we needed anything extra.
It fixes some problem areas, water's holding in a lot of spots, and then also defines those parking spaces. We don't really have that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Chris? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
By Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to Georgia Public Web, consent to agreement, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we're a member of Georgia Public Web, which is our backbone or backhaul provider for telecommunications. And Georgia Public Web has since sold its assets to Accelecom Georgia LLC. And what they've asked us to do is just do a routine contract assumption agreement. I've vetted this pretty hard for about 6-7 months to make sure there was nothing nefarious in here, and everything's seems to be on the up and up. We're the last GPW city to go that route anyway, so I feel pretty comfortable with this. So really, our agreement runs through 2026, I believe, and all the contracts that exist with GPW are listed there as exhibits. So that is all. We just have to approve the assignment of the contract and the contract assumption agreement as presented.
Thank you, Logan. Are there any questions for Mr. Probst? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent
Motion.
assignment.
I'm sorry, a motion to approve with what, Nathan?
The consent to assignment.
Okay, thank you. A second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to old business, let's table this one again. This is a River Point preliminary plat review. You want to tell us anything about it?
Yeah, we had a good productive meeting, Brad, Rodney, and I last week on several elements of potential agreement, the plating, and we're still kicking the can a little bit, but made a lot of technical changes with water and traffic calming and so on and so forth. So we're moving in the right direction, I think, with these guys.
Thank you, Logan. Are there any questions for Mr. Probst? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to table.
We go with Ms. Malcolm with the move, and the second for Mr. Bradley to table. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to new business, we have a couple of things that kind of go hand in hand. Mr. Callender, you want to tell us about the southwest corner of 78 and Aycock Avenue?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, and if it pleases the council, I will present both the rezone and the item listed below that. That's item B as a variance. They're part of the same project. Thank you. The request before council this evening is a 26.644 acre site. This is on the southwest corner of Aycock Avenue and US Highway 78. Back in August of last year, the council approved a rezone for this property from M1 to PCD. And so just a quick snapshot of that plan. So last August, when the council approved it, the request for that PCD. It was a 4-lot mixed commercial and light industrial site with the streets that you can see accessed off US 78 with one intersecting into Aycock Avenue, and then there was basically a little spine street going through the property itself. So the applicant is back in front of council asking for a rezone, keeping the same PCD zoning designation, but they're asking to amend that plan district to allow for a multifamily and mixed-use commercial development. And so they provided a plan with their pattern book that shows a number of multifamily buildings shown on the screen behind you. They're shown in orange. It's basically a multifamily campus. Then they're proposing to have that accessed from the proposed entrances they were approved for originally in the plan from last year. So they're proposing to access the site from a right-in, right-out entrance off US 78, and then a full entrance off of Aycock Avenue. With that are coupled with some improvements on 78 is a traffic signal that the applicant's also been approved for by GDOT. So the applicant has been approved for both entrances and the improvement here at US 78 and Aycock Avenue for a traffic signal. The commercial lot you can see is kind of cornered up here on the northeast part of the site. It's accessed from the drive, entering the multifamily area, and then there would be a connecting private drive between those two parcels. Just some data on the actual multifamily. So it's 24 acres of the site, roughly. Total of 282 units inside the multifamily area. They're proposing to meet our parking minimums in our code at 1.5 spaces per unit, 423 parking spaces. They are proposing a max building height of 3 stories. The unit sizes proposed are 800 square feet for 1 bedroom, 1,000 for 2, and then 1,200 square feet for a 3-bedroom unit. These are the minimums that are in your zoning ordinance now. The commercial outlot details, it's roughly, it's almost 2 acres, a little short of that. They're proposing that it be a max building of 5,000 square feet, and they are proposing that uses be flexed within our zoning ordinance to be in the B3 zoning district. Parking would be parked under our zoning requirements. They're proposing the building have a limited height of 25 feet, which will basically be a single-story structure, and they're proposing to include a 20-foot landscape buffer next to that multifamily tract. Just a note of that, that's 10 feet more than our actual zoning ordinance requires, but you can see they've shown that landscaping, you know, and conceptually here on the plan, and they've showed substantial landscaping adjacent to US 78 between the development and the highway. The proposed architecture that was submitted with the request, they provided you 2 options. Basically, there was an option A and an option B. Option A is your typical garden-style apartment, gabled roofs. And option B had a parapet walls, kind of more of a classic revival style. And it was Planning Commission's recommendation, along with another one recommendation, that this request be approved with that option B. And I'll flip back to that just so you can see it. This was Planning Commission's request in the first condition that the architecture represent this representation here, or be built to that representation, excuse me. Oh, going the wrong way. And so the Planning Commission recommended approval subject to the 2 conditions. The first one being that the represented architecture would be representative of option B, and that they included the facade materials, that it be composed of brick, stone, or architectural metal with limited wood and stucco accents. And the second one was a proposed sanitary sewer relocation. They are proposing to relocate our sanitary sewer on the site, and we're simply requiring that that be done at the developer's expense. So the second component of this request was a variance. So in your development regulations, developments or residential developments that are over 200 units would require 3 access points. In this case, they're only proposing 2. As I had indicated earlier, the one off of Aycock Avenue and then the one off US 78. The access off 78 is clearly controlled by GDOT, and they've been approved for a right-in, right-out at that location along with the traffic signal. So they have limited frontage on Aycock Avenue, and there's simply not enough room to add 2 public streets here based on our separation of intersection requirements from the US 78 interchange here to their interchange and moving through along with the frontage of the property. So the Planning Commission recommended approval of that variance as submitted without conditions. And that's all that I have, Mr. Mayor, for both requests.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Calendar. Are there any questions for Brad?
This is for the public hearing, right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Are there any questions? Well, do I have any questions for Brad's first question anyway? All right, hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open. For public input, is the applicant in the audience?
Charles Preston on the phone.
Charles, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for being here by voice. Would you like to speak for the rezone?
Yes, just want to make sure everybody can hear me in there.
Yes, sir, we're good.
Good deal. Well, city council members, Mr. Mayor, city staff, and citizens of Monroe, my name is Charles Preston. I'm here to answer any questions, concerns regarding this rezoning and variance request. Also in the room are Chad Clark with Green River Builders, Roger Grant from Columbia Engineering, the architect for the team, David Walker, other partners for Green River and Jacks Creek are here. I'd like to start off by apologizing for my absence in the room this evening.
Charles, one second, please. I think you're echoing a little bit. You might be too close to the phone.
Okay, I just want to apologize for my absence in the room today. Logan and Brad and the team, they put us through a rigorous process and actually extended us for about 3 months from being in front of you like we are tonight. So we're grateful for that process. It only made the product that's before y'all tonight even better. And City Monroe's, you're lucky to have that team. They're tough. They put us through the ringer for sure, and as it should be when it comes to a project like this. In a nutshell, this is a private equity funded project. There is not no request for tax credits to fund this at all. It's a workforce housing project. I think everybody, I'm sure many of you remember the amazing Game Changers study came out years ago. In that study, they interviewed the leaders of the industries of Unesia, which we call the industrial corridor of Monroe, about some of the issues that they're having. Part of that was about attracting talent and bringing the talent in, finding local housing for their employees to land when they get here. Not many of them could afford a $300,000, $400,000 home in Monroe or enter this, they would be forced to enter the scarce rental market that we have here in Monroe. So this project, it will help address this need for some workforce housing in the city. Currently, there are 3,000 people that work on Unesia. The Development Authority, Walton County Development Authority, projects eventually you're going to have 5,000 to 6,000 workers on Unesia. And currently coming into Walton County as a whole are about almost 16,000 people drive daily into Walton County. So there's an issue for workforce housing and where to put these folks. And as Monroe grows, you're gonna need more folks to work and to help keep the city going and to add workers in shops, restaurants, more nurses. You're gonna have lawyers. You're gonna need more police, more firefighters, and I could go on and on with the other professionals of all kinds that you're going to need in Monroe. And currently, they're either college students at home that are working, but then they go off to college. And you're going to have a shortage and people driving in from out of town to try and fill these positions. This project helps with you there as well. We also see this as an opportunity for the city to, I guess, in a sense, dip its toe into multifamily. This is not an enormous 400, 500-unit complex sitting out in an open field, where other ones can just make the case that they need to pop up right next to you because there's another 10 or 20 acres for them to build on that. It's out on 78. We're currently building a signal that'll allow trucks additionally when the bypass comes and the traffic coming off the property onto 78. Right in, right out is going in currently as well off 78. So, this project makes sense for the city right now, or at least we see that way, and we hope that tonight I can answer any questions or concerns that can help you guys see that maybe the time is right for this. And I'm here to answer any questions. If I can't answer them, we've got everybody in the room that can answer them if I can. I'll open it up to council.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. I'm going to come back to you in just a minute, okay? Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone who would like to speak against the rezone? Seeing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. We'll come back to visit that in just a moment. Regarding the variance at the southwest corner of US 78 and Aycock Avenue, I already asked if there are any questions for Brad, but do you have any questions in case you thought of some new?
You talking to the council now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had just a question, and I think all of us, anytime something new is built, we want to be sure it's a success, and that's something we try to look at. I just had the one concern, though, if I understand correctly, 80% of the apartments would be one bedroom? And
No, sir. No, sir. It'll be 2 bedroom. 80% will be 2 bedroom.
okay, I misunderstood then. Fine, that answers that question. Thank you.
I could have misspoken too. It's 80% 2 bedroom.
No worries. Yes, sir.
I got a question. Since he said they're going to be affordable units, how much are the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms actually going for?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. I apologize.
How much are the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms actually going for?
Yeah, Chad Clark, are you there? I'll let them, this Green Rivers project, I'll let them address that portion of it.
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
Hello, my name is Chad Clark, and thank you for having me here this evening. To answer that question, sir, rough average is around $1,850 for rental.
$1,850
Yes, $1,850 for rental per month. Is that what you were asking?
for what? 3 bedroom, 1 bath?
Well, it's the average, like a 1 bedroom would be probably somewhere around $1,450. The 3 bedroom would probably be around $2,000 or $1,950, and 2 bedroom would be in between of that.
And that's what y'all call affordable rental?
That's what apartments are going for, multifamily, yes, sir.
And you said a 1 bedroom gonna be 14?
Yes, I mean, we can look at that closer, but we're building right now multifamily, and the market rates are around 1,400.
And I believe that one objective in having, I think I heard, in having 80% 2-bedroom was to accommodate maybe a roommate situation with 2 workers at Unicia that may want to room together and be able to split that rental rate.
Yes, we have that situation actually in Pendergrass with the SK battery plant doing similar situation.
I understand what Ms. Malcolm is saying, but if you building apartments for 2 people to live in, that don't actually make a whole lot of sense that you're saying they're affordable, but then you telling me that you need 2 families in it to afford it.
Not families, 2 people, 2 independent workers, young people working at Unicia like they're working at the battery plant. It's more like a college roommate situation. And that's what we don't have in Monroe.
And before we go any further with that line of questioning, we'll come back to that when council, I mean, it's a technical question, is great, but the discussion will be, between us will be in just a minute. Do we have anyone else here who would like to speak in favor of the variance? Do we have anyone here who'd like to speak against the proposed variance? Specifically, this, keep in mind, was going from 3 access points down to 2, simply because of the way the property works. So we have right in, right out on to 78, and then on to ACOC. It's a full point, and they have the traffic light that's already been approved by DOT, correct? Okay. We'll come back and visit that in just a moment. I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. Moving to the variance of 204 Felker Street. Mr. and Ms. Chancey, are you available?
Mr. Mayor, I'd
Just
like
want to make
give
sure,
you a
just
brief
want to make sure you're here.
presentation on that.
Mr. Callender?
Yes, I was going to give you a brief presentation on that one.
Oh, yeah, I was hoping. I just want to make sure they're still here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for interrupting.
No worries, you're fine.
So this request before council is a variance. This is from your ordinance, section 910.1, paragraph 8. This is the requirement in your single-family subdivision single-family residential requirements that require a forward-facing garage. This is an existing lot on Felker Street, recently divided for the Chanceys. And so, I know it's hard to make out the lines of this plan on the screen behind you, but this is an existing dwelling. The footprint of that dwelling is basically in the center of this drawing. It's an existing dwelling on the site, living space in the front, bedrooms in the rear, and there's a kitchen here on the southwest corner of the property. So in working with Mr. Chancey, he was wanting to do some additions to the property itself and obviously add a garage. There is no existing garage on the property. So the challenge for him was creating a garage that met the council's requirement to allow a side or rear entry only in the garage, which is what that section 910 does. And in doing so, Mr. Chancey was faced with some challenges in meeting our ordinance. And I'll let Mr. Chancey go into those details a little bit more specifically, but they're proposing additions on the site in a way that at least the staff had felt like that they were going to maintain compliance with the intent of that requirement. Just a little bit further, though. So they're proposing to develop this garage recessed back from 23 feet from the front of the residence. The residence itself is 46 feet in depth. That includes some of their proposed improvements. So there's essentially a parking space here for a vehicle. And I think when in working with this variance and working with Mr. Chancey, it kind of came to light that a vehicle could be parked here whether there were side or rear entry into this portion of the residence, even though there isn't a garage here. And it kind of came to light that if a garage was pushed back, I believe the intent of the ordinance's requirement, the council's requirement to allow or restrict side or rear entry only was going to be achieved if the city council approved a variance request for him. The planning commission felt the same way. They recommended approval of the variance request and that the variance be constructed, that the garage be constructed as presented with a stipulation that the garage be at least half the distance from the front of the dwelling by the total length of the dwelling itself. That's measured from the front to the rear. Planning commission went further in their recommendation to recommend to council to consider a potential future amendment to the ordinance, not under this request specifically, but just a thought that we revisit that side or rear entry requirement on single-family homes in the future as some way to possibly promote better home design.
There's an alley right there, correct?
There is a small alley behind this property, correct?
So not being able to tell, does it?
It's not accessible, I don't believe, to that.
Okay.
I don't think it's active at all.
Okay. In that case, let me find out where we are. This is a public input section. Do I have anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of the variance? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against the variance? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. We'll revisit in just a moment. Moving to new business, this is the rezone of the southwest corner of 78 Naycock Avenue that we just discussed. I'll open the floor to council members for discussion only. Let's give a little leeway because we probably have more questions for Mr. Preston and the builder developer. That being said, questions, comments? This is for the rezone to go from PCD to multifamily?
No, I think it's PCD to PCD with modifications.
That's correct.
As presented.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any comments?
Is this the same thing we just talked about? Because you got, they back to back.
Yeah, they're back to back. The variance is just about access points. This is about the actually changing of the.
Your questions are pertinent.
Yeah.
This is where your question would be.
Gotcha, because I'm still trying to get clarification of what the real numbers were. My thoughts, and these are just my thoughts, if you telling me that, and I want to be precise about the numbers you said for a one bedroom. Did you say a one bedroom was gonna be $1,475?
If you don't mind, please come forward. We want to catch you on the microphone, please.
Set the rates, yeah.
So if you don't mind, give us a range on a one-bedroom, two-bedroom, three-bedroom.
I'm Brian Hurley with Green River Builders.
Thank you, Brian.
Our other properties, the one-bedrooms are running almost right at 1,500. The two-bedrooms are running 1,850, and the three-bedrooms are right at about 2,000, a little under 2,000, 1,975, I think. And that's in Pendergrass, which is most of the people in that area, they have very limited housing. Most of them are working in the industrial areas and whatnot in that area.
Are those full?
We are leasing them very quickly. Should have our first move-ins actually Friday, but they are, we've averaged about 15 leases a week so far. There is one other multifamily project down the road from us that we feel is, we built a pretty nice product. It's gonna, you guys are gonna like it. That is inferior to ours, and they leased up really quickly, and their rents are comparable.
To clarify Mr. Garrett's question, though, you haven't actually, you won't set the rates till you finish construction, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You're giving what market rates are today for those that
Yes,
you're
sir.
finding, like in your Pendergrass. When you get, by the time you build these, market rate could change either way.
Yes, sir.
So for instance, if for some reason the economy went down, then the rate that you're having might be lower, depending on, so that 1,850 might go to 1,500, or,
When, in the last crash of '08, the housing crash, people migrated to apartments. So it actually helped, the rents actually went up. So it just depends on the type of event. You can go push people one way or the other.
it's market rate.
Yeah.
Rent don't typically go down. So I don't know what you were just asking. I mean, how the rates go up and down as far as interest rate, but the market as far as number, what you gonna be paying don't typically go down from 700 to 500. It normally go from 700 to 900.
There's a substantial, in the whole Atlanta metro, there's a substantial housing shortage. It's, what's happening in a lot of these communities are, you know, say your kids go to college or go to the military or something, when they come back, there's no place for them to live. Your starter home now is $325.
I understand what you're saying. My main concern is when you say affordable housing. And my concern is if you can pay $2,000 a month for an apartment, you could buy a house.
Absolutely. Well, if I could answer that.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir,
Councilman
Charles.
Garrett, I don't know if y'all can hear me or not.
Yes, sir.
Hard for me to hear y'all. You know, that's what, you know, the city of Monroe is we're kind of at a crossroads of the houses are so expensive and there's so few of them that the city at some point has to begin to supply more housing. And unfortunately, you are going to see in the beginning prices being higher than maybe you want them to. But as more inventory begins to come onto the market, it will allow competition, which will allow rates to come down. In regards to this project, you know, I think Ms. Malcolm touched on it briefly, was that, you know, you divide that cost up amongst people in it. But yes, that number for single one bedroom, which is 10% of the total project, you know, at $1,400, you know, it unfortunately is where the market is now. And with the amenities that are being provided on site, you know, and these to attract the young professionals to live in Monroe that we want to come here, they want those things in their apartment complex that they're going to live in. And so that's where there's kind of this unfortunate gap that has to be breached somehow. And, you know, this is the opportunity to start that, to have your first, you know, only 282 units. It's not large. You know, your first step towards the direction, which I think we all want to see, is, you know, housing across the board on apartments or buying a home. I mean, it's crazy. But for Monroe to slow that at any point, inventory has to come onto the market, and this is that first step. And it's a tough one in the beginning, but as things you begin to add, you'll begin to see those numbers shift. And if I'm wrong, Brian,
I think you missed what I'm.
but I believe that's close to what we talked about.
I think you missing what I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's not what the cost is. I'm saying that you all said affordable. And in my eyes, yeah, but that ain't really what we call affordable. Because when you telling me two people got to stay in to actually afford something, then it ain't really what I call affordable. That's just like telling me if I buy a house, I need to get somebody else to help pay for it with me. And basically I'm saying that I can afford it, but I can't afford it. We can afford it.
Right, it's you should have said it's market rate. Right.
And I think what the difference in what Norman's speaking to and what this product provides and the clientele that it targets are two different things. I've sat in a lot of seminars about the newest trends in housing moving forward. And the young professional today, much different than when we all came on, they do not want home ownership responsibility. They want a place where they can live and play with amenities, and they want a city where they can dine, but they don't care about taking care of a yard, changing a light bulb, working on a window. They want the easy life of home ownership, but it's not home ownership. But they don't mind renting, and we're going to see more and more of that as time goes on. So this particular product is going to cater to your teachers, to your nurses, to your professionals at Unicia, your workforce at Walmart Distribution, those things, and all of these other industries that are projected to come in our industrial park over the next 10 years.
Your young couples with no kids, once they
Right.
start having children, they start buying homes later. But the part about this is when you're looking at $1,500 a month for a one bedroom or $1,850 for a two bedroom, if you are both young professionals with no children, if you can afford this and this comes out as a house payment, great, but you probably don't have the 20% down for the house payment. So you go through the rental route. I was in a seminar on this last weekend, and we've been in it with Rope Roberts with our meeting with the Development Authority a couple of years ago. This tends to be the sweet spot for what they're looking for.
And you go to any community, go to Snellville, go to Conyers, go to Athens, to Winder. This is what you're seeing, Pendergrass. And this is going to be a new trend. And the one thing that I can say about this group that has come before us, they have worked diligently with the Planning Commission and with the office. They have done everything asked of them. And to think that this developer is going to actually incur the cost of putting in a traffic light and has gotten DOT approval, that's huge.
But that ain't gonna change my mind, though.
Well, that's fine. I just think
want you to know that.
who you're targeting and who they're targeting are two different workers.
Got you. I understand that. Like I
It's
said,
a product we don't have in Monroe today.
I understand
We
that.
have the other.
It's professional housing is what it is, for younger professional housing. It's nice.
Do you have any other comments?
I was just gonna say, I think that, to your point, it's not affordable housing. It is market rate housing. It is professional housing. It's meant to target a different group of people. I mean, folks like Habitat or people who are moving in with a good heart, trying to make sure that people can have a good place to live, who have a lower income, that's a totally different thing. I think we stumbled over this on one of the last projects we had, that they brought in the term affordable housing, and because that's a hot button. It's something to say. It makes people, no offense to Charles or anybody else, but it makes people feel like that it's going to make my project seem better. And unfortunately, I believe it causes confusion. I think it's okay that you're trying to build a product that attracts a certain type of people and that is at a certain is at a certain price point because it costs that much to build at this point. But, you know, I think that whenever we get into our meeting for rezoning and all these different things, you know, later in the month, that's when we need to talk about serious affordable housing options and what that looks like. Because I think that there are options. I don't think this is it, but I still think this is an excellent project. I love where it's located, and it is targeting those folks who are going to be either working at Unicia, perhaps some people from Rivian coming in, those kind of things. So I think that's the difference. It isn't affordable housing, no doubt.
Oh, I agree. That's why
And they really, when I talked with them early on, it was never presented to me as being affordable housing. It was market rate, professional.
well, I don't know what they said. Lee, you just told me it was gonna be an affordable house.
I don't know where you got that. If I said affordable housing, I didn't mean to because I knew the rates were gonna be this. And I knew the target audience was gonna be teachers and professionals, nurses, all of those things that right now we don't have a product to serve them.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, I'm gonna make a motion to deny it.
Second. I have a motion and a second to deny the product. A motion by Mr. Garrett, a second by Mr. Boyce. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey, I've got 1, 2, 3. 3 in favor to deny. Opposed?
Oh, aye.
Of 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion to deny fails 4-3. May I entertain a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second. Oh,
Give that second to Mr. Bradley, if you don't mind, Tyler.
yeah, no worries.
All in favor, or is there any discussion? Sorry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
I oppose.
1, 2, 3. Motion carries 4-3 with Mr. Garrett, Mr. Boyce, and Ms. Crawford in the opposition. Moving to the variance thank you, gentlemen. Moving for the variance of the southwest corner of Highway 78 and Acock Avenue. Again, I'll open the floor to council members for discussion. This is just from going from what we request is 3 or down to 2 points of ingress egress.
Well, I certainly know that Brad and his staff have studied this intensely, and I'm assuming that because we have the access off 78 and also off of ACOC, that you feel comfortable that that can accommodate the traffic flow.
You know,
That was the case, and they have a limited amount of frontage on ACOG that wouldn't warrant additional streets based on your restrictions on the number of interchanges and the distance required between those intersections.
and ACOG also enters on from UNESA, right?
Yes, sir.
So basically, you've got 3 entrances, the one off UNESA and 2 off of 78.
Yes, sir.
We'll note the traffic signal was huge right there. We wouldn't normally advocate for a traffic signal on 78, but with the upcoming truck route, using 83 in that left turn, this is actually going to help overall traffic on ACOC and the ingress egress out of it.
What, explain me what you said, you got 3 access?
Yeah, because this street,
So Unicia.
that comes right back out on UNESA, right there next to the truck stop. You can turn off UNESA and come around that way and come in. You're right next to the truck stop.
I don't know how they're gonna get in that complex from what you saying. They still ain't got 2 entries to get in that complex.
Truck drivers.
Well, I'm just saying, you get on ACOG off of UNESA, and then you turn into the complex, right?
Yeah, but mean they still got.
It's only 2 going into the complex itself.
Gotcha.
But access to Unicia, there's 3.
Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion by Ms. Malcolm to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the variance of 204 Felker Street, I'll open the floor to council members only for discussion. Anyone, any questions, any comments?
I just make a comment. I appreciate the work that Mr. Chancellor and Mr. Chancellor doing over there and other people on Falcon Street. And certainly would approve this. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Thank you. I do have a motion that I'm going to hold off on 1 second if anybody else has any questions or comments about Felker.
I would like for us to bring this to our planning meeting, the concept of looking at areas in established neighborhoods where this could also come into play in the future. This is a house that's sat for 15 years vacant and boarded up, and they are doing an amazing job. And there are many houses on this street that don't even have a garage, and parking is done right in front of the house. So I think, in light of all that, this is going to just be an asset to that corner.
So you second?
Yes.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, and I totally agree with Lee. That's something that we need to talk about at our planning retreat. Moving to the application of beer and wine package sales. Mr.
That
Rosenthal.
application is in order, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Glad you're here. If you'd like to say something, you can. You don't have to. These generally
Pass.
go through. Please, come on.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Virani. It's just a good opportunity. This is the first time I'm just sitting in some kind of city hall and asking for permissions, as we're opening a new gas station and convenience store, and just came to get an appointment or just application for the beer and wine. I've been doing this business for like 5 years now. I've never been to such kind of city council. I've been just getting application just through the city, and I'm just glad that we've been opening a new store. It's an opportunity for us to help the community, and yeah, I'm just glad again to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, we're thrilled you're here too. Thank you for coming in, man. And I really like what you're doing to the store.
Is this the property adjacent to Bulldog?
Yes, sir.
It's where?
Adjacent to Bulldog.
Bulldog Tire?
Oh, yes. We
Yeah.
are thrilled to
Appreciate
see
what
that
you're
go
doing.
in.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
looking
Yeah, looks
great.
nice.
We've been there stuck for like maybe 9-10 months.
Yeah.
So now we've been renovating everything from the inside. It's gonna be brand new store, new pumps, everything's gonna be new.
It's out of
That's gonna
town,
be
needs it
very
too.
welcoming to have a gas
And
station
we'll
on out.
we'll hopefully have, maybe the first week's gonna be a cheapest gas in Georgia, as we're talking to the jobbers for the contract, and hopefully we'll see you all guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muhammad. I appreciate your coming in, man. I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Garrett. Is there a second?
Second.
Chess? Second by Mr. Boyce. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. If you don't mind, at the moment, I need a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Motion to recess.
Motion by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. 5-minute recess, please. Thank you.
Might have known.
No, either, I know.
That's what they damn said.
It may be what they said, but it ain't what it is.
I'm ready to go home now.
You still got executive session.
Welcome back, everybody. Moving to an appointment for the Housing Authority. I have one appointment on the Housing Authority that will expire on October 6th. Lynn Hill would like to continue to serve the Housing Authority, and he's excellent. I need a motion to reappoint Mr. Lynn Hill for a 5-year term to expire October 6th, 2027.
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Boyce. Who do I hear over here?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Lucky to have Lynn. Moving to the resolution rescinding the limitation on outside city water moratorium, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. A few months ago, you remember we did a moratorium, really due to supply chain issues and being able to serve water customers outside of the city limits. It's loosening up a little bit, but we feel it's probably in the best interest to go ahead and rescind that. But do note that it is on an as-available basis. So builders, developers outside the city who want our water services really need to inquire well ahead of time that we have the available.
So it will be on a case-by-case, location-by-location basis if we rescind it?
Yes. Well, it'll be whoever, first come, first served, basically. But we will still make sure we have enough in reserve for the city as well. So we're putting in orders as fast as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Probst. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, does anybody want to hear the resolution read? That does not sound like we want to hear it read. I'll entertain a motion, please.
Move approval.
A motion to,
Rescind.
have a motion to approve to rescind by Mr. Bradley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I don't want to, but
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes.
They have something for that, if you don't want to.
Moving to the first reading of the short-term rental ordinance agreement. I kind of know where we're heading with this, and you, the folks who were here brought some very, very good points. Are there any questions before we move to any motion?
There'd be no motion, this is just first reading.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to make, well, I'd like for consideration to table this, or either, I guess we could hear the first reading and then have more.
Make amendments?
Make amendments.
I'd suggest that we table it if you want some
Okay.
significant
And I
amendments.
make a motion to table so that we can have more discussion on some of the concerns that have come up and maybe come back and have a redraw
So if
of that, and even discuss it in our planning retreat.
I think so, too. Have a motion to table by Ms. Malcolm and a second by Mr. Garrett. Is there any discussion?
I'm going to support the motion, but should we not have some discussion tonight? Although I'll wait for the retreat for all this.
I mean, I'm open to discuss if whatever.
It would help us get a jump start on it if,
Okay.
kind of give us a little bit of input.
Okay, let's do that during the discussion period. So, go ahead, Larry.
Two of the points that were raised, I maybe address and we had discussion on. One was on the gravel parking, which I support the comments that were made. Gravel parking should be allowed. We just need to be sure that staff writes this such that it's maintained gravel parking of some sort so that we sure that it doesn't just get thrown out there wet, messy. Another one is, people had concerns on, I guess somebody had a concern on whether or not it should require a kitchen. My suggestion on that is that there needs to be some type of kitchen facilities. We're not in the rent-a-room basis here. We're better house, I think, so.
An efficiency.
I don't understand the reluctance to have a kitchen.
You said full?
Maybe define the
I don't
kitchen
know,
a
it has
little
to be,
closer.
it needs to be a kitchen facility, I mean,
Kitchenette? Or,
Right.
it don't have to be a 15 by 15 kitchen, I don't guess, but some type of thing.
I'm just trying to understand, when you say kitchen. what
Well,
is that?
kitchen, you're gonna have a sink, maybe you have a coffee pot, I don't know, or a coffee
a microwave and a
microwave or something like that.
And a refrigerator, at
And
least.
a refrigerator, yeah, I think it needs those,
But, yeah.
things like, I don't think, it needs to be minimum requirements for a kitchen. And, but I think most of these are gonna have full-blown kitchens in them, because people gonna want that, but.
And my other concern would be, in the event there is a pool or a hot tub, well, I can tell you right now that if I'm in the hot tub, I don't want a camera on me that the landlord can watch. So I think, certainly I understand wanting a camera on the parking areas and the back door, front door, that sort of thing, but maybe we can define that a little more.
Ms. Lee, as it's drafted, it's currently defined exactly that way. It calls for cameras to be on the parking area and on the entrances and exits only.
Okay, so not on
It's
the
not
corners
calling
of the
for,
house.
it's not calling for video cameras on any accessories or any yards. It's calls
Okay.
for video cameras on driveway and entry points to the short-term rental.
And I think that maybe someone might want to comment on why that's in there. Logan, would you like to comment, or?
Tyler was the director.
Tyler, but, you know,
Yeah, I
there's
can
a
speak to
reason for
that.
the
Yeah,
camera.
so last year at GMA, I got into a conversation with another city council person from Snellville, and we began talking about short-term ordinances. And he brought to my attention that they put in a camera ordinance. And at first, I was against it because I don't want Big Brother around any more than anybody else does. But he began to tell us that what they ran into was a problem with sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and some other illicit activities that were happening at these Airbnbs, mainly sex trafficking on the weekends. People would rent these things, basically set up a brothel type situation for the weekend, and then they'd move out. And so once they put those cameras on there, so a lot of that activity dropped by about 40% is what I was told. So it's a deterrent, and like I said, I generally am not for that kind of thing, but once I learned that, and then also, most of you know what line of work my wife is in, so it was unnegotiable at that point. So that's what it's for.
And Mr. Bradley, if I can just give a little bit of
I can
background.
support that 100%.
This draft ordinance originated from GMA's model ordinance. So GMA released a model ordinance. We then went to several other cities at the suggestion of staff and took some of the good and deleted some of the bad. So that's where the ordinance originally stems from, is from the original GMA model ordinance. But our office, along with Mr. Brad's office, we will get together and we can certainly provide edits and red lines based upon the comments that are made here, as well as the comments that come out of your planning retreat.
Thank you.
So,
All I have.
so we have, parking needs to be revisited, the kitchenette, however we want to word that. The cameras that are pointed to the entrances, not the pool, I don't know how I want to word that, but I think you looked good on what you said. And fire extinguishers, aren't those included as a?
We can add
family?
those. They're not included. You
Okay.
could read that they would be required anyway under the life safety code of residences, but we can certainly just add that as an extra line item.
Okay, did we have anything else?
The fire extinguisher or alarm system?
It requires a hardwired fire alarm system, or not an alarm system, a fire smoke detector system. But it does not currently require fire extinguishers, but we can certainly add that. And there was some discussion about the window egress. That's your standard life safety code anyway. You're not going to be able to get around that. All it does is essentially codify on paper right in front of the short-term rental ordinance owners that which the life safety code of the International Building Code for single-family residentials and multifamily already requires.
Is that a situation that once you make it a short-term rental, then it's sort of like rezoning, now you have to do all the things, or is it grandfathered, like the windows, for instance, are they grandfathered in?
Yeah, so that's going to get a little touchy and a little difficult. I mean, this is becoming a regulated business, if you will, underneath our ordinances, so it would require application and approval. That application and approval would go through Mr. Kelly's office, or what other office in the city it's designated for, whether it be the marshals or otherwise. They would receive inspections. Those inspections should be approved by city staff. You get into the issue, it would not be grandfathered in. That's sort of that's a nomenclature or an operation of the law that relates more to zoning issues, non-conforming pre-existing. Because this is a regulated industry, it's not going to have any grandfathered issues. The issue of sizing of windows, though, and the exterior of the homes, you certainly could get into some variance structures there when you're in a historic neighborhood, as Ms. Brassey raised. When you're in a historic area, the windows are already undersized. They've always been undersized, those sort of things. But you're not going to be able to just grandfather in the existing uses because essentially you're just now coming online and regulating these uses.
I'm sorry if I missed any of the gravel driveway situation. I haven't heard a lot of discussion about that. Several people are very concerned.
Well, yeah, we talked about they're going to revisit that.
Okay,
Just pervious, impervious.
great, yeah.
Did we have anything else?
That's all.
Okay.
I didn't write anything else, but I think the fire extinguisher outside by the grill is a great suggestion. And even if you have a fireplace inside, to have one near that. Most of them would be gas, but there could be some wood burning, I guess. She has a question.
Yeah, feel free. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking.
New house, the old house ain't gonna be hardwired. The new house is gonna be hardwired, so you're gonna probably have to give them the battery.
Okay.
It'd require that, I guess.
But how's that worded, Paul?
I would highly suggest that you leave your motion to table on the floor, that you take action on it, and that all of the intricacies of these details could be hammered out with staff and hammered out in your planning retreat, because I don't think you're going to be able to fix the issue of lithium-ion batteries or not, or hardwired or
That's
not.
fine. Yeah, I get it. But it's something that was a point that we want to make, so we can discuss it later. So I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm, second by Mr. Garrett. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes unanimously. Moving to the first reading, restricting ordinance to amend the charter. Mr. Probst.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is just to codify the actual census district boundaries in accordance to the map selection for redistricting that you voted on earlier this year. So what this does is just change out the text in the charter, as you can see in the Exhibit A, with all of the requisite blocks from that original map selection.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Logan?
I'm gonna move that we waive the reading proper tonight, but also, in addition to that, that the map itself be included as an attachment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bradley. So everybody okay with waiving the reading?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. We'll have the second reading at the October 11th council meeting.
Correct, and also just for point of clarification for the public, there will be a public hearing on this at your October meeting as well. It's being advertised in the paper the next 4 weeks. If anyone wants to review the ordinance, there's a copy on file in Miss Debbie Kirk's office here in the city clerk's office. There's also a copy on file in the clerk of Superior Court of Walton County's office over at the county courthouse. And at Mr. Bradley's request, we'll add a copy of the map to those public viewing copies as well.
Great, thank you. Next, we move to the taxation ordinance amendment. Logan?
All right, thank you, Mayor. We've talked about this for quite some time throughout various budgets and then our summer retreat, about completely redoing the occupational tax ordinance. kind of getting in compliance with what most cities in the state are moving to or have already moved to, which is replacing the license and tax based on employment numbers, FTEs, and replacing it with gross receipt method. And one of the benefits of doing this is those businesses that really consume a lot more of your public services, particularly public safety, will then, under various NAICS codes, pay an appropriate business license rate for their operations in the city. So that's it in a nutshell. There's various business classifications within this. It's a little more complex to administer for staff, but I think the end result brings some equity and fairness to our business environment here. So, you know, big box retailers don't have to pay roughly the same thing as your mom and pop dry cleaner at the corner. Is kind of how I would frame that for simplicity's sake.
Now, how will we enforce this, Logan?
Yeah, so this is going to be enforced through the code office. They have to,
I guess what I'm saying is, did we have the authority also to go to the Georgia Department of Revenue and check sales? Or are we just gonna check them, or are we gonna take those?
so first year is estimated, basically. They turn in estimated gross receipts in year one. Year two, and these are confidential, by the way, from each business. These have to remain confidential. Then year two, we get an actual gross receipt calculation from them. And 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So
I understand, but that's what they're gonna turn in?
that's what they're gonna turn in. Now,
Correct. It's reported the same way that your alcohol sales is reported now. It's reported on affidavit. And it will be reported, and let me just tell you, it's complicated. All of your constituents are gonna call you and start freaking out in January with the new stuff they have to do. So just a heads up, this is the first time we've changed this ordinance in 25 years. And it's complicated, and some people's bills are also everybody's bills are gonna go up. Some people's bills are gonna go up a lot. But to answer your question as to the issue of how it's self-reporting, it's self-reporting just like our alcohol tax is currently, and it will end up with 2 columns. Every year, once we get it online, they will provide us with an estimate of what they expect the current year to be, and they will provide us with a retroactive sales figure of what actual were for the year before. And then the city has an obligation or a choice of their obligation to true up the prior year. Because the code is very specific and clear that it has to be taxed based upon receipts in the year of the occupational tax. So it has a whole structure in there for a whole lot of administration of this ordinance.
And there's the chart of the actual rates per thing. Will that come back before us for approval, or?
It is in this ordinance.
It's in the ordinance?
It is in this ordinance. It is, I can point you to the location. It is gross receipts, and it is, give me 1 minute, it's gross receipts or employee count, or employee count. It's gross receipts, and it's essentially 2 bips, 2 basis points for the lowest category, 3 basis points for the next highest categories, 2 basis points, 3 basis points, 5 basis points, 6 basis points, or 8 basis points. And that is in section 90-110, subsection C, sections 1 through 5. But for locations that do not have revenue, such as the Walmart DC, there's no attributable revenue to that Walmart DC, then the way that the ordinance is drafted is they are then paying on a per employee count.
So mainly, this brings in the funding necessary to cover, let's just say, public safety, and it should be paid for by the big box retailers who are generating all the money and generate most of the costs.
This will, I haven't done any of the numbers, that's for Ms. Beth and for Logan to discuss with you, but this will most likely drastically increase your revenue line item for occupational tax receipts.
Yeah, I will note, to be somewhat business-friendly here and make sure that, we don't run any of even our big retailers out. We capped it at $30,000 per year, which sounds astronomical, but We do have a cap. A lot of other cities do not cap revenue. We also kind of delineated some areas within the general downtown administrative district, recognizing that there's some unique situations there as well.
I'm sure it's in there, but how will professionals be taxed?
Under the 400 Club. So if I can, let me give you an executive summary of what this does, and maybe that'll help, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions, because myself and Logan and Beth and Mr. Campbell have been working on this for quite a while. It is a pretty complex ordinance. So essentially, right now, your minimum occupational tax is $100. The minimum is going to go up to $250. Okay, that's the short version. $200 occupational tax and a $50 regulatory fee. Again, the first time we've raised the tax in 25 years, or changed it. Then beyond that, the maximum is $30,000. You're not going to see folks getting those kind of bills excepting your large, big box retailers and the like, Home Depots, Walmarts, and the like. And they're used to paying fees much higher than that for occupational taxes in other jurisdictions. The tax is based upon what's called a profitability ratio and your gross receipts, and that's what's in section 90-110. It's also based upon your number of employees. So basically, whichever one is higher is the one you pay. So if you are primarily focused on sales, then you're going to pay this occupational tax based upon your gross revenue. If you don't have gross revenue, but you have a whole bunch of employees, Walmart Distribution Center or any other manufacturing location that actually runs sales through other sales distribution networks, then you're going to pay based upon $50 per employee. Additionally, in accordance with Georgia law, the professionals exemption, or what they call the 400 Club, is in place. And that is for lawyers, CPAs, architects, engineers, not real estate brokers, sorry, engineers and the like. It's called the 400 Club. There's 18 or 22, I can't remember, and they pay $400 per professional at the location. So my office would be 6 attorneys. So right now, I think our business license is $200, $250 a year. Our business license will go up to $2,400 a year. In addition, there is a Downtown Development Authority max, and that is essentially a max of $550. So if you're located within the four corners of the DDA, then the max occupational tax is $500 plus the regulatory or the admin fee of $50. So those are your ranges. It's based upon employee count. It's based upon employee count and gross revenue and what they call the profitability ratio. The minimum is increasing from 100 to 250. There's a maximum cap of 30,000, and in the DDA four corners boundaries, there is what's called an economic incentivization cap of $550.
Can we clarify one thing? You did, I'll use your firm as an example. You said because of the 400 Club would be $2,400, but because you're physically located within the DDA boundaries, does that mean you're limited to $550?
Yes, if you choose to do that. I mean, you don't
So
have
if there was a law firm identical to yours outside the DDA boundaries,
correct.
it would pay $2,400, you'd only pay $5.
That is correct.
No, I don't know that
And the basis of that, or the purpose of it, is to incentivize and to improve your downtown and keep your downtown core strong. So another example would be a grocer or a retailer. So a grocer or a retailer is going to have high sales that may put their business license up into the $5,000 range to incentivize their location within the downtown core. Then it's very common type of incentivization that we see is you can incentivize based upon location, you can incentivize based upon business type, and so one of the common ones is a downtown business core incentivization.
I agree with the incentivization, if that's the right word.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just not sure that seems like a big, I mean, just use the law firm as an example. That's a big gap between 500 and 2,400.
I mean, that could be changed to another number.
Everybody can't be downtown.
Correct. And the general purpose and what we've seen in other jurisdictions was just to prevent kind of a hollowing out should should an economic downturn occur at some point, you want to keep your downtown economic engine robust.
I agree with the incentive, don't get me wrong.
But should that be 500? Should it be 1,500? You know, that's up to you all.
Can we change it based on business type? So for instance, if you do have a retailer or a restaurant or that kind of thing downtown, can they receive it but a law firm cannot? Because a law firm doesn't technically, just to use the law firm as an example, they're not technically pulling in customers from the downtown to make that engine run. They are a professional service that is, you see what I'm saying?
But they're also probably paying much higher rates on the,
Rent.
on the rent or purchase price, so think about our attorneys, for instance.
But
Splitting that hair a little further into, I don't know, that'd be a legal question.
They use the example, I'm not sure exactly what DDA boundaries, but if John's is inside the DDA and Quality's outside, they under different.
Yes, that's
rules.
correct.
That's pretty significant there, I would think.
But it's no different than I don't disagree with the significance, but for further example, it's no different than the availability of your low-cost financing options that are available for DDA businesses, DDA grants. I mean, the whole concept of the DDA boundaries is an incentive market or an incentive region.
Yeah, but it seems like everything is geared up for DDA in downtown. All the grants go to basically downtown, but they don't have grants that going outside of downtown that the DDA have. Then you want to incentivize the one that's not in downtown. That don't make a whole lot of sense. That we basically penalizing people because they're not in downtown.
I mean, I think this goes back to a holistic discussion of the DDA, but I don't know if we want to get that far into it tonight. What is a fair price? If we are going to create, if we're not going to
We've
create,
got to correct it, because we've got to. We are so far beyond the curveball, 25 years. I mean, and we've got to have these people that are demanding our services and these businesses, we've got to have them come to the table with more money.
I fully support the concept, and I fully support incentivizing downtown. I just don't know that, I'm not sure I agree with the variance there.
Okay, so first, before I come into waiving the reading, if you would like to review the numbers for each category between now and next month, can we waive the reading tonight, make the changes, and then do second reading next month? Or a second
can we make
waiving,
that
or do we
happen
need,
January 1?
or do we need to table it,
for timing purposes, in order to make sure all our businesses
Yeah.
have adequate
Notified.
heads up and notifications, and we can walk them through all this, I would not recommend a tabling, but if we're stuck on a $500 DDA cap, give me some input now so we can drop it in.
Can we exclude the DDA currently from this and do it for everyone else and then include the DDA later?
Yes, you certainly, so if you want this first reading to go forward,
Well, the other side of that is you can pass it like it is now. At any point in time, can we make a change to that one line item?
of course, it's its own section. It's section 90-113, and it's a specific reduction in the tax that
So at
puts
the
a cap.
January meeting, if we wanted to modify that $500 to $1,000, we could do
And
it.
it'd be come into play in
For the following year.
2024.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
you
for the
cannot,
following year, that's correct.
For the following year.
and you cannot specify by business type.
You better not.
I don't know.
Realtors in particular.
To answer your question, Mr. Gregory, I don't know without digging into it. We specifically researched and confirmed that geographic incentivizing was approved and allowed under the law. It's a very highly litigated and a very, very specific set of laws in the Georgia Code on the 4 different ways that you can tax businesses under an occupational tax. It's not a regulation of the business. It is for purposes of raising revenue, and it allows some limitations or some incentivizing. So I'll have to research that to give you the answer because there are a lot of cases out there where these ordinances get challenged. Y'all's has never been challenged because
For obvious reasons.
it's so low, for obvious
pays any money.
reasons. So,
Well, and you know, I think one thing comes to mind for these businesses in downtown, that incentivized rate, we need to remind them that, no, you don't have parking in front of your building, but look at the difference in what we're doing for you by things like this.
True. I think it adversely impacts very few.
And they do have to compromise
Attorneys and realtors, you know.
parking and that sort of thing.
So, does council wish to have the ordinance read? Kind of sounds like no. We'll have the second reading at the October 11th council meeting. Moving to district items, does anyone have anything to discuss? Lee Malcolm.
No, I don't. I did attend the DDA meeting, and I do have some dates that maybe didn't come up tonight. Farm to Table is November 6th, and the tickets sell out really quick. So you'll get an email, I'm sure, so pay attention if you want to attend the Farm to Table. Even sponsors don't get but like one ticket. So I hope that I'm sponsoring and I do get to at least bring my husband. But November 3rd is Light Up the Night. And the Christmas parade, the theme is Monroe goes to the movies. And it's December 8th, and I think applications for the parade will be out soon.
Thank you, Ms. Malcolm. Moshe.
No, I don't.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. No. Mr. Little. No. Y'all are saying no mighty quick. I'm still making notes from Lee's stuff. Mr. Bradley. Mr. Garrett. Mr. Gregory.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, especially since we've talked about the topic of affordable housing tonight, that you all know that that's a topic that's close to my heart, and I hate that the confusion has come up about affordable housing versus a normal building project where people are going to have to make a margin of money. One of the difficult parts about what's going on in our economy right now is it's nearly impossible to build an affordable home, and people with the best of intentions, including people in our own hometown right here, have built houses that they couldn't build for less money than what it costs to build a house. So building apartments, building houses, if they're not subsidized in some way, they're not going to be what we call affordable housing. There are groups like Habitat, like I said, that I work closely with that are working to address that issue. And I encourage you guys, please get involved and work with them to help them find property so that they can build houses, so they can find people to put in those houses, so that they can build neighborhoods that allow people to get in housing for lower income and workforce opportunities. So I just want to tell you guys that there are people out there that are working really hard to try and get that done, and please be a part of that.
Thank you, Tyler. And I have 4 things, and I'll try to move them pretty quickly. Framing with the Mayor, Habitat, Saturday on Turner Street at 8:30 a.m. We'll be there till 2:30. If you come, you don't have to stay 6 hours, but, I appreciate you hammering some nails. And it's framing, it's the easiest day, a whole lot less to screw up. Number 2, at your seats, Sarah Shropshire, who's our new community development person, sent me this. I had met with Dr. Franklin last week and a local business owner who's asked not to be named, very frustrated in the way our school system has handled the free and reduced lunch this year. Last year we gave, and it was a federal program, or due to ARPA dollars, everybody got to eat for free. This year you have to apply for free and reduced lunch. If you are one of those families that either did not apply or does not meet their low-income threshold, and you miss a few days, they make you eat a cheese sandwich. And this particular business owner said, look, I grew up in a trailer park. I had no money, and I always felt that I stood out because I couldn't afford all the things that these other folks could. So we met with Dr. Franklin and did not get very far at all. In the meantime, Sarah Shropshire, the new community development person, sent me this information from the USDA website. I've been in touch with Dr. Franklin and the school board today because Harmony and Monroe Elementary both qualify for that free and reduced lunch program for every single child at that school. Ether Road Elementary is just a few percentage points behind, and so is Carver Middle. So that's the kind of stuff that she's going to be doing. Excited to have her coming.
Well, what was his response in that they qualify and why aren't you offering it?
Well, I have not received the official response from him. He said, the official response is, this goes to the nutrition program. They'll
And
reach
there
back
are
out.
grants out there that those nutrition programs can apply for.
That's exactly what this
That
is.
will accommodate the entire public school, Walton County Public School population.
But this has to be in by September 30th, so she's going to stay on it. I'll stay on it too. Groundbreaking for the YMCA, October 4th. We're excited about that. I put this at your place, Cultural and Performing Arts and Conference Center, had an organizational meeting, several community stakeholders. I tried not to use the same folks who are always pushed by the chamber, pushed by United Way. I got county representation, I got city representation, I got representation from all of the county municipalities. And I included Sarah and Katie Butler, who are both in our community development team. It was a good first meeting. They're supposed to come back with solutions on where we could put it, how much it would cost, how we're going to pay for it. But basically, it's to consolidate Monroe Walton Center for the Arts, the museum, the History Center, on stage, and something in a more nice, new, efficient building that would have adequate parking, that could host conferences, that could host community events, and can host smaller events as well, that we wanted when we had the school discussion, when Ms. Rita
Just FYI,
went
I
to the school.
think your organizations you're talking about coming together, I think each of those are going to be opposed to that, but.
Well, they weren't. It was a nice discussion of the people who were
But
here.
did you put the parameters on the location? Because, I mean, a lot of those have got to stay in our city core.
Well, and that's the discussion, right? So it was, you don't want anybody to feel like they are moving to a worse location. As downtown has expanded, we still have, we want it to be walkable, still have to be in the city core. And we still have, after listening to them, we still have some really good options. So that'll be interesting. And this is planting seeds to trees for shades we'll never see, right?
I just want to clarify what you just said. So
Right.
the Center for the Arts and the museum and on stage have all said they're in favor of this?
They were all here, all in favor, and I actually got a follow-up email from Hope Reese the other
My
night.
wife's on the board of one of those, and she said they just had a board meeting, and that's not what came out of their board meeting.
Well,
That's what so
I did
who's
not
telling
have
you
the whole board here. I mean, I had representatives, I had 20 people here, so, from
Yeah,
all different ones.
yeah, they just-
But I'll also tell you this.
Different feelings coming out of that, I guess.
I'll also tell you this, that if you are in, let's say, Monroe Walton Center for the Arts right now, and you put this facility, I don't know, right over here, just past Marable, and that's not walkable. But it is walkable in 5 years. This is not something that we'll build next year. Our downtown is moving that way, and that way, and that way. So anything we can keep walkable, it was a good first time, it was a good first step. There are gonna be a lot of folks who agree and really jump on board, and there are gonna be a lot of folks who go, ain't gonna happen. David Thompson was in the meeting, and he said, God, this sounds like a great idea, but we're not gonna pay for it without a SPLOST referendum. And that, of course, I mean, you're talking about something that I would guess is gonna be $25 million. It's gotta host upwards of 1,000 people. School board wanted to host 4,000. There's no way we could do that. But this is just a long-range plan. This is a legacy gift to the city from the people who come together and work on this. So I at least wanted you to see it. Would love your input.
And you put it in our packet.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
yeah.
Yes, with the new logo on it and everything. Yeah, and I'd be interested in your comments. That being said, is there anything else for the good of our community?
Just one last thing is, I sent an email out about that earlier, but for our planning committee meeting, just talking about smaller lot sizes and smaller home sizes as far as concerns affordable housing. It's the other way to reduce cost, build something smaller.
Right, and that is already on the list.
Awesome.
Totally agree.
Great, just
Okay.
wanted to make sure.
We do have an executive session, so let's adjourn to executive session with a motion from
Moved.
Ms. Malcolm, a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll adjourn to executive session.